My best friend invited me to her house as a guest. I found an excuse to go upstairs and deliberately changed my clothes in front of her studious younger brother. The studious younger brother stood there, stunned, behind me. From the full-length mirror in front of me, I could see his elegant and tall figure, as well as the tips of his ears that were turning red. I slowly fastened the last button, and couldn't help but chuckle with pride in my heart. Admit it. You're also fascinated by me. After a long while, his Adam's apple rolled up and down, and he quickly turned around, saying, "Sister, your plaster sticker has fallen off. I've taken a fancy to my best friend's younger brother. Xavier. To be precise. It should have started from my previous life. Yes. I've been reborn. In my previous life. Because I was blinded by a scumbag boyfriend. I completely ignored the love around me. Xavier confessed to me 7 times. But each time I turned a blind eye. And even said a lot of words that made him sad. Even so, when I was caught in a fire and the scumbag fled with his mistress, he rushed in without hesitation to save me. The fire was fierce and dangerous. In the end, we were buried in the sea of fire. Xavier held me tightly and said he loved me, and died during his 8th confession. This time around, I want to stay away from the scumbag and make up for the regrets between Xavier and me. So when my best friend Ava invited me to her house to celebrate a festival, I agreed without hesitation. And I deliberately knocked over the water cup and walked into the wrong room. Xavier obviously paused when he walked in. I pretended not to know anything and continued changing my clothes. Unexpectedly, Xavier suddenly said, "Sister, your plaster sticker has fallen off. Recently, because of the pain in my shoulder and neck, I had put on a plaster sticker and forgot to take it off. Oh my God. There should be a mark on my shoulder. Right? It's okay. It's a small matter. I can handle it." Seeing that Xavier was about to leave, I quickly called out to him, softening my voice. "Xavier, could you please help me put on a new one? It's a bit inconvenient for me." I took out a new plaster from my bag. Don't ask me why I carry it with me. It's just the self-awareness of a working person. Xavier seemed a bit hesitant. "Little brother, if you don't come over, I'll really die of pain." I added fuel to the fire. And sure enough, I saw Xavier walking towards me with a blushing face. He tore open the packaging, and his slender and fair fingers were trembling slightly. A smell of traditional Chinese met us and quickly filled the air. Xavier was a head taller than me. From my angle, I could see his handsome features and long eyelashes. How could I not have noticed before that this kid is so good-looking? In less than 10 seconds, Xavier stepped back. He walked downstairs in a disorganized manner, looking very flustered. I hooked the corners of my lips as I stared at his back. "It's okay. I can take my time." After having lunch, Ava dragged me to the nearby shopping mall. I pretended to ask casually, "Aren't you going to ask your brother to come along? What's the point of asking him to go? He'll definitely feel uncomfortable with 2 girls around." I nodded in understanding and said casually, "That's true. But let's make it clear. I won't be able to help you carry those things later. Anda is a shopaholic. Every time we go shopping, she always has her hands full of shopping bags. Then I'll ask Xavier to carry the things for me. It's better to use him than not. But this kid will most likely not agree. He'd rather stay at home and play games." Ava didn't suspect anything. She called out to Xavier, who was upstairs. Before long, Xavier came running downstairs. "You're so enthusiastic today?" Xavier quickly glanced at me, then walked ahead and turned his face, looking rather unnatural. "You're my sister. What's wrong with helping you carry something?" Ava was very touched. "Dear brother. You've grown up. You finally know how to think of your sister." "I've already grown up. I'm 20 years old." No. "You're 19 and a half. Generally speaking. You're still 19. Shut up." I smiled, seeing through it but not saying it. On the way, Ava suddenly asked me about Blake. "Yes, Heathy too. Blake is my damn scumbag boyfriend. Why hasn't he come to find you recently? Did you have a fight with him?" "Yeah. I broke up with him. Although it was a one-sided breakup. After being reborn, I proposed to break up with Blake. He thought I was just throwing a tantrum and didn't agree. He just asked me to calm down for a few days. We've had fights before. But every time after the fight, no matter what the reason was, I was always the first to apologize. One second I was still angry. And the next second I would go to him to make up with him. Feeling ashamed. I couldn't live without him. And he was certain of this. In the eyes of my friends, I was just a girl who was obsessed with love. So when I said I broke up, Eva was very shocked. Are you serious this time? Yeah. Extremely serious. After saying this, I caught sight of Xavier's surprised gaze and the slightly raised corners of his mouth. Are you sure you won't go back to him? Don't worry. Someone's tense body relaxed instantly. And even his steps became much lighter. Even I felt more cheerful while shopping in the mall. Ava's mood was as high as ever. She was truly a shopping maniac. After walking around the upper floor, Xavier already had his hands full of shopping bags. Ella, that's enough. Right? If you buy more, you'll have to carry them yourself. Xavier frowned, looking very dissatisfied. Eva was in the mood for shopping. You still have some of Sister Arya's things in your hands. You can let her carry them herself. Why are you like this? Isn't she your friend? Xavier was even more dissatisfied and hugged the shopping bags in his arms tightly. Just as I was about to reach out my hand, Xavier dodged and stammered, not wanting to give them to me. People who didn't know might think he was holding some precious treasure. Who said I want to take them? I'm going to wipe the sweat off for you. Little brother. Lower your head. There was a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. Hearing my words, he obediently lowered his head. Because we were so close, I could even feel his breath. My gaze slid across his lips. And my fingertips touched his cheeks and the tips of his ears intentionally or unintentionally. His face became redder and redder. And so did the corners of his eyes. I immediately pulled away. I couldn't tease him anymore. If I did, something might go wrong. Coincidentally, Eva called me over to try on clothes. Xavier, that little rascal, hid in the corner and carefully took a sip from the straw of my milk tea. When we went back in the evening, Xavier's family strongly invited me to stay. But I didn't have a nerve to stay any longer. Although I was really reluctant to part with Xavier, that little rascal. Sigh. I'll take it slow. I originally wanted to take a taxi back. But Xavier drove a car out of the garage and offered to send me home. It's too dark. It's not safe for a girl to go home alone. My sister and I will send you back. He scratched his head. I smiled at him and thanked him. Eva sat in the passenger seat, looking incredulous. You're really acting strange today. You little brat. You're like a super nice guy. Do you have a girlfriend? I'm single. Don't talk nonsense. Why are you so excited? Even if you do have a girlfriend, I won't say anything. It's normal at your age. I'm rooting for you. I looked up at the rearview mirror and happened to see Xavier's flustered eyes. Why is he so flustered? Is he afraid that I'll misunderstand? So cute. I must win Xavier over. I just don't know how Eva will react when she finds out. Well, I hope she'll still be as calm as she is now. The car stopped steadily downstairs of my house. As soon as I got out of the car and was about to thank him, I heard Blake calling my name from behind. Eva quickly patted my hand, probably meaning that I shouldn't go back to him. The knuckles of Xavier's hand resting on the steering wheel suddenly clenched. I told them to go back first. He looked at me, and with a reluctant look in his eyes, he drove away. I turned around and walked over. Blake frowned and stared at me. Arya, do you know how busy I am? This meant that I was so busy. So you should learn to suit yourself instead of making me come here. Take the opportunity and make up. Oh, I'm quite busy too. I avoided him and went upstairs. He grabbed my arm furiously. What on earth are you angry about? I'm not angry. I've said everything I need to say in the message. I want to break up. And I'm serious. He stared at me for a long time. And his tone became a bit gentler. Stop being silly. Dear. Let's be okay. Shall we? Just as I was about to say something more, I heard the sound of brakes behind me. Then came Xavier's cold voice. tinged with some annoyance. Sister. Your necklace fell in my car. Ava wasn't in the car. He drove back alone. Almost instantly, heading Poffeldly. Blake let go of my hand. He cared about his reputation. No matter where or when. He always had to maintain his false kind appearance. Arya. I'll give you a few more days to think it over. Don't come crawling back to me later. Begging me to give you another chance. Blake adjusted his suit and regained his demeanor in front of others. These words were like a needle suddenly piercing my heart. In my previous life, I was indeed as Blake said. I would humbly beg to make up with him. Sometimes I was so humble that I didn't even care about my self-esteem. So in Blake's eyes, I had always been such a shameless woman. I was so angry that I was trembling all over. It wasn't because of Blake's words, but because of the self who didn't love myself in the past. I took a deep breath, and suddenly a warm big hand covered my ear. Sister. Don't listen to that scumbag's words. Xavier had walked over and blocked me behind him. His deep and rich voice resounded in this cool night. If Blake has any sense, he should know that you two have broken up. It seems that the one who's pestering someone now is you. Blake's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. If he didn't have to maintain his gentlemanly image, he would probably have jumped up and started cursing. He drove away with a displeased expression, stepping on the gas pedal. A continuous stream of warmth came from beside me, and my heart seemed to come to life all of a sudden. It was very quiet around us. I could even hear the two overlapping heartbeats, which were heavy and fast. Xavier suddenly pulled away the hand that was on me and immediately came to his senses. He completely lost the imposing manner he had when he was confronting Blake just now. Sorry. Sister Arya. I just didn't want you to hear those words. You're really great. Really. I smiled and ruffled his soft hair. Thank you. Xavier. His face turned red again at a speed visible to the naked eye. My heart twitched violently twice. I thought. I seemed to have found a treasure. He seemed a bit stunned. I tilted my head and had to remind him. Didn't you say you found my necklace? Oh right. He took it out of his pocket and handed it to me. I shook my head. Can you help your sister put it on? Little brother? My hands hurt. He nodded and bent down seriously to put it on for me. Of course. If we ignored the fact that his hands were shaking, he was very restrained. Even though we were already so close, there was still a distance between us. I walked a few steps towards him with the mischievous thought, and he almost embraced me. Xavier's body stiffened a bit, but he didn't move. Do I look good? Even the base of his neck turned red, and he let out a lone sound. You look good. As soon as the vacation was over, I flew back to Shanghai overnight and became a wage earner again. And Xavier also quickly went back to his school. For a whole week, that little rascal Xavier didn't contact me. It seemed that all the hints I gave him that night didn't make him understand at all. Fine. If the mountain won't come to me, I'll go to the mountain. Ava and I don't work in the same company. But we're not too far apart either. In the evening, I was just about to call Ava and planned to invite her to have dinner at my place on the weekend. And then, it would be logical to pick up Xavier as well. Unexpectedly, Ava called me first. Hello, Arya. Are you free now? Please help me pick up my younger brother at the airport. Is Xavier here? Yeah. He said there's a competition at his school this week. He was supposed to come in a few days. But I don't know what got into him. He arrived today. She must be very busy over there. I heard the voices of people talking one after another. I have a big project tonight and can't get away. The little brat has been waiting for a long time. Can you go and pick him up? If it's not convenient. I quickly interrupted her. I'm free now. Xavier's flight was around 8 p.m. When I drove to the airport, it was almost 11 p.m. I saw Xavier sitting obediently on his suitcase at a glance. He is good-looking and young, exuding the vitality and youth that only young people have. He's the type that passers-by can't help but take a few more looks at. He rested his chin on the handle of the suitcase and flipped through his phone in boredom. He really looked like a little stray dog waiting for its owner to take it home. He saw me. His eyes lit up, and then he dragged his suitcase and ran towards me. Sister Arya. Why are you here to pick me up? Have you eaten? Yeah. Xavier's eyes were bright. And he looked very happy. Can't I pick you up? It seemed that Ava hadn't had time to tell him. Of course you can. I'm really happy. Really? I didn't tease him. Instead, I kept a straight face and said, your sister was not available. So she asked me to come. Actually, you could have called me. And you wouldn't have had to wait in the airport for so long. I felt a bit disappointed in him. You little brat. When are you going to be able to chase after me? I called you. He suddenly said. Looking at me with his puppy eyes full of grievances. The number you gave me couldn't get through. And my sister didn't answer either. I originally wanted to ask her. Well, I think I know what's going on. Saying it couldn't get through actually means it's an empty number. I did give him my phone number. But at that time I was still with Blake. Xavier's gaze was too direct and enthusiastic. I always knew that he liked me. So when he blushed and asked me for my phone number, in order to break his thoughts, I directly gave him a number that could never be reached. By the time I was reborn, this period had already passed, and I forgot about this matter. Oh my goodness. It's my fault. My heart softened completely. And I said with a bit of guilt, sorry. How about you stay at my place tonight? Xavier's eyes widened. He swallowed hard. And stammered, Is that okay? I smiled and pinched his face. What are you thinking? Little brother? I didn't mean anything else. It's just. Is this not appropriate? Obviously speaking in a hesitant tone. His eyebrows and eyes were relaxed. The joy couldn't be hidden at all. Just like before. For me, having fulfilled my obsession. No matter when I looked at him. Those eyes were filled with burning love. I deliberately thought about it. Raised my eyebrows. And looked at him. It's so late. Do you still want to go back to your sister's place? Besides, what can you do as a kid, huh? I'm already an adult. I can do a lot of things. Xavier muttered with some dissatisfaction. I didn't hear it clearly. But it didn't stop me from imagining what he said next. I was laughing in my heart but didn't show it on my face. I calmly drove him home. When we got home, I tidied up the guest room. Afraid that he wouldn't sleep well because of being unfamiliar with the bed, I specially changed to a softer mattress. Xavier just followed me silently. And it seemed that he was still bothered by it. Sure enough, he didn't hold back for long. He stepped forward and held my hand. Sister. Let me do it. Okay. However, he didn't let go of my hand at all. His face turned red with effort. And he said very awkwardly, Sister. I'm already an adult. So, can you stop treating me like a kid? Xavier's tone was very solemn. And he seemed to care a lot about this. Ava and I have known each other since the third year of junior high school. At that time, he was still a primary school student. Always following us around. He especially liked to stick to me. I thought he was just too bored and didn't have friends. So he was so clingy. As he grew up a bit, he stopped following us around. But the way he looked at me changed. He often wandered around in front of me like a child and tried hard to find topics to talk to me. He always secretly saved my favorite toffee for me. When he held out that bag of candy, he also offered his sincere heart. But I turned a blind eye to it. It wasn't until I met Blake that I understood what that look meant. It was filled with strong love. Because that was also the way I looked at Blake. It wasn't until I was with Blake that he dejectedly withdrew from my world. At that time, for me, Blake was mature and charming. And he was simply beyond comparison with the somewhat childish Xavier. I also said more than once that Xavier was naive. So he cared about it especially. I squeezed the palm of the awkward little brat in front of me and sighed. When I say you're a kid, it's because I think you're cute. No. I don't want to be cute. Okay. Okay. I indulged him and coaxed. Then how can my little brother prove that you're not cute? He suddenly grabbed my hand and placed it on his abdomen. And his eyes shifted awkwardly to the side. I have ABS. If Xavier's expression could speak, he would probably be shouting directly. I'm mature. Very mature. Sister. Come and pick me. I didn't hold back and touched it. It's really not bad. This kid has been secretly working out. Xavier was stunned by my action. Before he could react, I pushed him into the bathroom. Okay. Mister. Not cute. Go take a shower. Go to bed early after that. Good night. Okay. Sister. Good night. Xavier replied to me obediently. Well, I still think he's cute. Xavier must have gone through a lot of trouble coming here. He still has to attend classes and will go back in a few days. I asked him when the competition was. But he hesitated and wouldn't tell me. Something's wrong. The kid can lie now. I was a bit worried. I really hoped he didn't skip classes to come here. Since he was a child, Xavier has had excellent grades. Before going to college, he was almost the first in the whole grade every year. He can be called the children of other families. I don't want him to end up with the result that a top student's glory fades away just after he entered college. Xavier looked at me nervously. I squinted my eyes and said, "Tell me the truth, or you'll go back with your sister." Ava decisively left Xavier with me because she's been busy with business recently. Actually, the competition ended last week, Xavier explained to me in a hurry. But don't worry, Sister Arya. I didn't skip classes. I only had a few classes this week. I came here just to see you. After saying that, he pulled the corner of my clothes with a wronged look, slowly moved towards me, and then gently placed his head on my shoulder. Sister. Don't drive me away. His tall figure enveloped me. His voice was low and hoarse, with a bit of a teasing plea. I couldn't resist when Xavier pleaded like this. I could only barely keep a straight face and say, "Okay. This is the last time. Don't lie anymore." Xavier let out a lone sound. I pushed him away as if nothing had happened. Because if we hugged any longer, he would hear my violently beating heart. I never thought there would be a day when Xavier could make my heart beat faster. I couldn't help but raise the corners of my mouth while at work. Why didn't I realize that this guy was so charming before? Compared to Blake, who never smiled much, Xavier, who is lively and full of youthful spirit, actually touches my heart more. And, to be honest, Blake doesn't have as good a figure as Xavier. So I must have been blind before, regarding Blake as a treasure. Just as I was thinking this, Xavier suddenly sent me a message. "Sister. Shall we go to the movies tonight? It's already Saturday." He recommended a recently released romantic movie to me. He also sent a bunch of wrong emoticons. During the days when Xavier came to see me, we hardly went out together, mainly because I was at work on weekdays. And I even had to work overtime on Saturday. He will go back tomorrow. Xavier actually doesn't like watching this type of movie very much. I recommended an art exhibition to him. He readily agreed. But I didn't expect that I would meet someone annoying there. I finally managed to hold on until it was time to get off work. I picked up my bag and walked out. There were a lot of people, but I still saw Xavier waiting at the entrance of the company at a glance. He was wearing a baseball cap. When he saw me, he waved at me and ran over to naturally take my bag. "Sister. How did you know I like this exhibition hall?" I smiled and said, "Is there anything about you that I don't know?" Xavier has always liked art exhibitions. This one has a very good reputation, and I guessed he would like it. But I didn't expect Xavier to be so surprised. Before entering the hall, I asked Xavier to buy a cup of drink across the street. While waiting, I ran into Blake and his female secretary. The two of them looked very intimate. Especially the woman, who seemed to want to stick to him. In my previous life, I thought there was something wrong with the relationship between him and the female secretary. At that time, I kept comforting myself that I was just overthinking. Later, not even 2 years after we were together, he had a woman outside. And I finally saw his true colors. "You're really a scumbag, Blake." I walked along another path. I originally intended to pretend not to see them, but his secretary seemed unwilling to let this opportunity slip away. "Yo. Isn't this Arya? What brought you here? Don't tell me you came here specially to find Brother Blake?" After saying that, she deliberately hooked her arm around Blake's to show off her so-called primary partner status. And Blake let her do it, looking at me as if watching a play. It was as if he was saying, "You regret it now, right? This is the consequence of not begging me." I crossed my arms and looked at the two of them speechlessly. Excuse me, having so filled my sigh. I don't know if this secretary's surname is Lee or something else. Is this art exhibition hall yours? Am I not allowed to come? Brother Blake. Look at her. She's so impolite. The secretary whined, shaking Blake's arm to complain to him. Be good. Don't be naughty. She's just jealous of you. Blake said. I felt like vomiting. Then the secretary looked at me provocatively. Arya. I hope you can respect yourself. You and Brother Blake have already broken up. So don't pester him anymore. These two people really have an overactive imagination. I rolled my eyes vigorously. This is the first time I've seen someone so eager to pick up someone else's chewed gum. When it comes to self-respect, secretary, should learn it first. If I'm not wrong, you and him had an ambiguous relationship during the time I was dating Blake. But you don't have to worry. I have nothing to do with Blake anymore. And I advise you. If he can have you as a secretary, he can also have other secretaries. You're not the only one. After I finished speaking, Blake's eyes looked as if he wanted to eat me alive. Well, for someone as arrogant as him, being compared to a piece of chewed gum probably made him extremely angry. I shrugged inferiorly and glanced at Blake disapprovingly. Today I'm mainly here with my little boyfriend. Young people are really great. His figure is much better than that of some people who are as skinny as a weakling. Arya. Is it so hard to admit that you're jealous? Blake shook off the secretary's hand, took a step forward, and gritted his teeth. I can pretend not to have heard what you said before. As long as you beg me properly, I'll let you come back to me. You've always known that I like to come to this exhibition hall, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have met you here today. These words suddenly gave me a premonition. I looked back and saw Xavier walking towards me. Sister. Xavier held a cup of hot cocoa in one hand and took my hand with the other. Aren't we leaving? The show has already started. It was obvious that Xavier had heard what was said earlier. He put on an almost flawless smile. I was amazed at his calmness and was led away in a daze. Sure enough, as soon as we entered, his face fell. He was in a bad mood throughout the whole process. And in the end, the two of us simply went outside, in the bustling street with people coming and going. He held my hand tightly and said in a very low voice, Sister, can't you take a look at me? His tone was like a plea. My heart trembled. My little angel was begging for my love. Xavier said in a muffled voice beside my ear. I'm younger than Blake. Better looking. And have a better figure. And I'm also better than him. Just as he was about to say the word, Edgar, I quickly covered his mouth. This is not something that can be said. He pulled my hand away, and looked at me resentfully and pitifully. Sister, Hazastor. Are you blind? You're ignoring me. A young and handsome guy. And looking at a greasy middle-aged man. Right? You're just blind. I could imagine how resentful Xavier was at that moment. The corners of my lips curled up slightly. And I pinched his chin. Can you kiss, baby? Before he could react, I kissed his soft lips. Gorgeous fireworks burst in the sky. And I saw my reflection in Xavier's beautiful pupils. On the way back, Xavier kept holding my hand tightly. Sister Arya. So we're together now. Right? From now on. You'll be mine. Won't you? He had asked me this question no less than 10 times. Xavier's eyes were almost curved like starry eyes. I ruffled his hair and nodded. Yes, Yevhen Filselvayevsesh. My little boyfriend. Okay. My girlfriend. Xavier leaned in and kissed my cheek. And the hand that was interlocked with mine tight and even more. Is he really that happy? You little rascal? I couldn't help but curve the corners of my mouth too. My heart gradually settled down. Things will get better. Right? We'll be together happily and won't be like in our previous life anymore. Xavier's flight was in the morning. When I sent him to the airport, Xavier lingered for a long time. After much persuasion, I promised to reply to his messages every day and said that I would fly back to see him when I had time. Only then did he reluctantly enter the boarding gate, looking back 3 times in one step. Before we confirmed our relationship, Xavier was very restrained when sending messages. Maybe he was afraid of disturbing me. And I didn't reply to his messages very often either. Sometimes I would reply 2 or 3 days later. On the one hand, it was because of my busy work. On the other hand, I still liked Blake at that time. But now our relationship has changed. He started sharing his daily life and would frequently send me express deliveries. Mostly couple clothes or daily necessities. And also models that he designed by himself. He said it was to cultivate sentiment. Oh, who doesn't know the little thoughts of this naughty younger brother? He has very dexterous hands. And the models he made are very beautiful. I specially set up a display window at home to showcase these things of his. Blake hardly ever sent messages on his phone before. And I had never experienced the feeling of being bombarded with messages. After being with Xavier, I realized that being in a relationship could be so clingy. In fact, I'm kind of a careless person. After staying with Blake for a long time, I gradually became more sensitive. I could keenly feel that Xavier actually lacked a lot of security. He would send me a lot of messages. But not too frequently. If I didn't respond, he wouldn't send any more. Probably because he was afraid that I would be annoyed by him. During the usual video call at night, after saying that he missed me for the 3rd time and not getting a response, he stopped saying it. Instead, he carefully observed my expression. "Sister, do you think I'm annoying? Xavier has a lot of classes this month, and he can't come over. But I can vaguely feel his eagerness and panic. Long-distance relationships are very painful for couples. They can't touch or see each other. And even when they quarrel, they can only do it through a screen." I knew what Xavier was worried about and quickly soothed him. "How could I think that? I'm more than happy. Be a good boy. Baby, a baby. And don't think nonsense." Xavier likes it when I call him baby. Every time I call him that, the tips of his ears turn as red as if they've been bitten. But he's a sentimental baby. I recently went on a business trip and will take a few days off. So I was lost in thought just now and thought that I could go to see Xavier. But he doesn't know about it. I plan to give him a surprise. "Sister, I don't have any classes tomorrow. Let me come to see you," Xavier said, looking at me full of anticipation. I refused. "It's just one day. And it's simply not possible to fly back and forth in such a short time." I saw him lower his head disappointedly. But I still hard in my heart and didn't tell him my plan. The next day, I bought the earliest flight. By the time I arrived at Xavier's school, it was almost noon. I sent him a message, imagining how excited he would be when he knew. But I didn't get a reply. Xavier never takes more than 5 minutes to reply to messages. I was about to call him. But the next second I saw 2 boys and 2 girls sitting face to face in a coffee shop. Xavier was sitting there uneasily. In front of him, 2 little girls were smiling at him. I almost gritted my teeth in anger. I didn't let him come to me. So he went to meet other female classmates instead. He's really got some nerve. You little rascal. There was comfortable music playing in the coffee shop. From the outside, the atmosphere among the 4 of them seemed really good. People who didn't know might think they were 2 couples. Of course, if you ignored the shy and timid expressions on the 2 girls' faces when they frequently looked at Xavier. The boy sitting with Xavier cleared his throat and said, "This is Xavier. The most handsome guy in our college. He studies well. And the most important thing is that he doesn't have a girlfriend yet." The implication was that they could go for it. So that's it. They were here to introduce girls to Xavier. "Sorry. I already have a girlfriend," Xavier said. Xavier's face was already looking unpleasant. He tried to leave several times but was held down by his companion. "It's fake. He's just shy." The boy quickly smoothed things over. "He said several times that he has a girlfriend, but he's never said who she is. And there isn't even a single photo. Who would believe it? Our college heartthrob is very shy." When asked to say who his girlfriend was, Xavier didn't say anything and looked very feel-wronged and unable to vent. Xavier didn't say anything because it was my idea. We haven't been in a relationship for long. Xavier's family and my relatives and friends are numerous. Once we go public, we will definitely be bombarded with questions from a lot of people. I don't want to deal with these troubles for now. These were my exact words to Xavier. He's very obedient and will agree to whatever I say. But actually, I'm afraid. I'm 6 years older than Xavier. And I've watched him grow up. I don't know what his parents will think once we go public. And there's also Ava. The two girls looked at each other and smiled, then said to Xavier, "Little brother. Don't be shy. My sister and I both like your type. We can sit down and chat to get to know each other better. Besides, you're really good looking. How did you manage to have eyelashes longer than a girl's?" After saying that, they were about to reach out and touch Xavier's face. I couldn't stand this anymore. I walked up to them. The next second, Xavier stood up abruptly, and the chair made an unpleasant scraping sound as it dragged across the floor. He pushed aside the boy's hand and walked outside. I spoke up at the right moment. "Baby. I've been waiting for you so patiently." My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough. The people at that table immediately showed astonishment expressions. Xavier stopped, both surprised and delighted, and said in disbelief, "Sister, why are you here?" "I missed you, Xavier." He came over and wanted to hold my hand, but then he stopped. I took the initiative to hold his hand and kissed his cheek. I smiled at the shocked people at the table. "I'll take my boyfriend away now. You guys have a good chat." After walking out of the coffee shop, I didn't say anything. Xavier was very self-aware. "Sister. I can explain." "Okay. Go ahead," I said. I could also guess that it was probably his bad friend who had invited him here. And he definitely didn't know about it in advance. But I was still very angry. Especially at the way those girls looked at him. I wanted to pack Xavier up and hide him away immediately. After Xavier finished explaining, the smile on his lips couldn't be suppressed. "Sister. Didn't you say we shouldn't go public for now? Can I say I regret it?" I held Xavier's face in my hands. "From now on, you're not allowed to meet other girls privately. Do you hear me? Are you jealous?" "Yeah. Very much." There was a lot of joy in Xavier's eyes. He leaned in and kissed me, mumbling, "Why, I'm so happy. I miss you too, sister." In the evening, instead of letting Xavier go back to school, I found a hotel. When I came out of the shower, he was looking through the school's confession wall. Below the first post was a photo of me and Xavier kissing. Although it was blurry, it was still easy to recognize Xavier at a glance. This post was really a bombshell. There were a lot of comments below. And the main characters being discussed were now grinning stupidly with their lips pursed. I leaned over and touched Xavier's earlobe. Smiling faintly. "Baby, you've let out a low sigh. Go take a shower quickly. I'll wait for you." Xavier's body froze all of a sudden. And his phone dropped onto the bed. His Adam's apple moved up and down. And he let out an "oh" sound. Then he rushed into the bathroom in a panic, holding his clothes. This was the first time we were in the same room after confirming our relationship, perhaps because of the excitement during the day. I felt it was time to have further development with Xavier. So when he came out, I didn't hesitate to kiss his trembling eyes. Xavier was deeply aroused by my kiss. I curved my lips and kissed him again. It should have been a natural progression. When the passion reached its peak, Xavier suddenly opened his eyes, gasped for breath, took a few steps back, and ran into the bathroom again. Huh? Xavier, do you have some kind of problem?" After waiting for about half an hour, when I was drowsy, Xavier finally came out with a trail of water vapor and carefully hugged me. I pinched his earlobe, indicating for him to continue. His fair face was as red as a peach. But I didn't get any response from him for a long time. He pursed his lips, seemingly having something hard to say. "Sister. Just wait a little longer." "Wait for what?" Like a thunderbolt, I suddenly woke up. I got it. Could this kid be not capable? I looked up at Xavier's expression. He was deep in thought. And I automatically translated that expression as a kind of loneliness that he didn't dare to express. "All right. I don't mind. If there's a problem, we'll get it treated. Right?" I didn't dare to be too straightforward, for fear of breaking his delicate heart. I could only stroke his head and say, "Baby. A true warrior dares to face a bleak life head-on. If you figure it out, I'll accompany you to the hospital." Huh? He was stunned for a moment. And then he nodded firmly. I know what to do. Sister. Well, this kid can be taught. So I nestled in Xavier's arms with mixed feelings, and fell asleep. After spending less than 2 days being lovey-dovey with Xavier. A call from the company summoned me back directly. The business trip was advanced. Xavier was still chatting and laughing on the way to the airport to see me off. However, when it was time to board the plane, he held my hand tightly and didn't say a word, just holding it like that. As if holding back a lot of emotions. And with time running out, I had no choice but to pull my hand away from his. When I looked up, I saw his red eyes with suppressed emotions. In everyone's eyes, Xavier had always been a top student with a silent and reserved personality. He was gentle and polite when dealing with people, but also quite distant. But in front of me, Xavier was good at acting coquettously and also cried a lot. He would cry while pulling at my sleeve when he fell down, cry when I didn't play with him, and cry when his confession was rejected. But he gave all his true emotions and himself to me. And I cherished that deeply. So I hope that in front of me, he can never have to hold back and can always be a child who is loved and doted on. I pulled him into my arms and coaxed him in a low voice. I'll come to see you when I'm free. Okay? Okay. He nodded with a muffled voice. The business trip came suddenly. When I rushed to the hotel arranged by the company, I happened to run into Ava, who was also on a business trip. To be more precise, I happened to see her pulling and tugging with a handsome guy. The guy had a bad expression on his face and left in a huff after a while. There seems to be something going on here. I asked her excitedly who the guy was. He's just a psycho. He actually wants to chase me. He's dreaming. Ava put her arm around my shoulder and said, "What's so good about men? Arya, it's good that you saw the light. We're single sisters again." How should I tell her that I'm no longer single? And my boyfriend is her younger brother? I didn't plan to hide the thing between me and Xavier anymore. Ava would find out sooner or later. But with her like this now, I suddenly didn't know how to start. Ava turned her head. Speaking of this, I feel that Xavier seems to be in a relationship. Recently, whenever I call him, the line is always busy. When I ask him what he's doing, he won't say. And he often grins stupidly at the screen. Good for him. This kid. I want to see who on earth is so amazing that they got Xavier head over heels. Ava smiled expressionlessly. My hand trembled as I replied to Xavier's message right under Ava's nose. This is so exciting. I'd better tell her slowly. When going upstairs, on the TV screen hanging on the wall, a reporter was reporting on the Blake family group. In the conference room, Blake, whose face was full of anger and whose hair was a bit messy from being pulled, flashed by. This was the first time I saw him not caring about his image in public like this. Blake has been having a rough time recently. Not only has the property under his name been transferred, but a lot of the company's shares have also been taken over. Ava thought for a while. I heard it was done by his female secretary. It seems that she has some evidence on him. I was shocked. Could it be the secretary I was thinking of? So is this a form of retaliation after seeing through Blake's true character? This is just him reaping what he sowed. The more glorious he was in my previous life, the more embarrassed he is now. I couldn't help but applaud her in my heart. Just as I was thinking this, an unknown number suddenly called. Hello. Arya. It's me, Hedinsel Helbransai. Blake. I frowned. He said before I could hang up. Don't hang up yet. Listen to me. I was wrong before. I know you still love me. I won't pursue who you were with before either. As long as you come back. Arya. You're the only one for me. Blake had never been so humble before. If it were in my previous life, I would definitely have softened my heart and forgiven him. But things are different now. I have Xavier. Blake, do you still think that just by saying a few words, I can come back to you? It's impossible. We have no relationship anymore. And I have someone I love now. Please don't call me again. Is it Xavier? Blake's voice was a bit gloomy. Not like his usual self at all. Xavier is the one who stole you away from me. Right? You weren't like this before. It has nothing to do with anyone else. President Blake should first look for the reasons within himself. Don't contact me again in the future. I hung up the phone and decisively blocked his number. Blake has a really strange way of thinking and is simply unreasonable. I've made myself very clear. He has always been self-righteous. So he should not come to find me again. I let out a sigh of relief. But I didn't expect that Blake would go even further. Not long after the business trip ended, Xavier called me in the evening and said he was coming to see me. Have you finished all your classes? Xavier's tone was very cheerful, with a bit of tender coquetry. Yeah. Sister. I miss you so much. Do you miss me? I poured myself a glass of water, deliberately leaned close to the phone, and asked seductively. If I miss you, can I see you? Baby? Yes, hadden så fel wide session. You can. Xavier's determined voice reached my ears. And I trembled heavily. It seemed that the tip of my heart was on fire. I missed Xavier so much that I was going crazy. This was an emotion I had never experienced before. These days, the business trip and Blake's occasional phone harassment had made me physically and mentally exhausted. Only Xavier could pull me back to reality. Just talking to him could make me feel very good. Then I miss you. Come quickly. Xavier. Okay. Sister. Wait for me. I knew that Xavier could only come tomorrow at the earliest. But I still said it willfully. I smiled, put the phone in my pocket, and completely relaxed. Before long, the doorbell rang. I was surprised by Xavier's speed. And then I saw Blake's unshaven and red-faced face on the display screen. He was obviously drunk. Open the door. Arya. His voice was very soft, but it made my blood run cold. Persisting like this really wasn't like Blake's character. I asked him coldly what he was doing here, but he didn't answer me. Instead, he threatened me to let him in, or he would kick the door down. If you're not afraid of me calling the security guards, then go ahead and kick the door. This sentence seemed to shock him. He stayed outside the door without moving, but started to condemn me for being heartless. You loved me so much before. How could you change so quickly? Have you forgotten all the little things we had together before? He said a lot, mostly recounting the little details of our past love, and his emotions became more and more agitated. But I felt ice cold all over, as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. What he said were obviously things that happened in my previous life. How could it be? Did he remember something? I forced myself to calm down. While making a phone call, I said to him, "You're drunk, Blake. I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't leave, I'll call for help." Who knew that he started pounding on the door while drunk? It's that kid Xavier. He's the one who ruined our relationship. He's always hanging around you. He doesn't have good intentions towards you at all. I planned it so well. Why didn't that fire burn him in there? What did he mean? Was that fire not an accident? Yeah. Why would that house catch fire for no reason? And why was Xavier so coincidentally there in my previous life? Everything seemed to have some clues. But I just didn't notice them. The security guards came up one after another and carried him away. He covered his head. His face was distorted. And he was talking incoherently. Arya. I didn't mean not to save you. The fire was too big. The person who should have been in there originally was Xavier. I was trembling all over. It turned out that everything was premeditated. When Xavier came, I was lying on the bed, wide awake. He stood at the door, smiling brightly and calling me sister. Then he came up and hugged me tightly in his arms. I could smell the refreshing and reassuring scent on Xavier. He kissed me very gently. Sister. I miss you so much. Xavier murmured in my ear, as if he wanted to make up for the separation during this period. I didn't even have time to speak. Taking advantage of a moment of clarity, I quickly patted his shoulder. What's wrong? Sister? Don't you miss me? He kissed the tip of my ear with a wronged expression. I do miss him. But I think this little rascal Xavier is in big trouble. Because Ava's voice emerged sinisterly from the room. You two have been hiding it pretty deep. Yes. Ava was here. After learning that I was being harassed by Blake, she rushed over overnight out of worry. Who would have thought that Xavier would actually come back tonight? Well, there's no need to find a time to confess now. 11 Xavier's body stiffened for a moment. And then he protectively shielded me behind him warily. Sister. I was the one who had those feelings for Sister Arya first. Don't blame her. In fact, I had been planning this gradually, taking advantage of my close relationship with Ava and our acquaintance for more than 10 years. I got together with my younger brother. I pulled him aside. I'm also responsible. Ava, if you want to scold someone, scold me. It's normal for Ava to be angry with me. And I'm willing to accept it. She crossed her arms and looked at us in disbelief. I thought she was about to lose her temper. What's so good about this brat? Except for being a bit good-looking. I've been seeing him since he was a kid. Arya, don't you feel any aesthetic fatigue? Sure enough. Best friends always look down on each other's boyfriends. Even if that guy is her younger brother? There are plenty of handsome guys on the street. What do you like about Xavier? Ava looked extremely pained and gave Xavier a look of disgust. This was something I didn't expect. Xavier also suddenly widened his eyes. He was like a wounded puppy, pouting and hooking my finger. Don't listen to Ava's nonsense. I'm really good. I smiled and held his hand to soothe him. Ava rolled her eyes, put on her shoes neatly, and walked outside. Since your knight in shining armor is here, I won't stay here to be a third wheel. You two can deal with your own business. I don't care. I knew this meant Ava had agreed. It was so late, so we accompanied her to the garage. Before leaving, Ava deliberately added fuel to the fire for Xavier, saying, if you don't want this guy anymore, tell me. I'll introduce you to someone better. All the way, having fulfilled my obsession. Xavier's face looked very gloomy, as if he was really afraid that I would leave him. I made fun of him for believing what Ava said, but his expression remained serious. When we got back to the room, Xavier solemnly took out a bunch of things from his bag. It seemed that everything around us quieted down. He said, Sister, these are all the certificates I've received over the years. I'm very excellent. So don't leave me. Please cherish me. This is my bank card. The scholarship I've received is in it. It's only about 100,000 yuan. Not much. But I'll learn more for you in the future. And this. He handed me his household registration booklet, and his face turned red slightly. I brought it out from home. From now on, it belongs to you, sister. When I reach the legal age for marriage, will you take me to get married? The young man in front of me had sparkling eyes, and they were filled with nothing but me. The sincere and passionate emotion that was about to overflow made my heart tremble. I didn't even know if I had given out emotions that were equal to this burning love. So was this what he wanted me to wait for that night? He wanted to give me a guarantee. He didn't want to be with me in a muddled way. Xavier stared at me eagerly, expecting my reply. Suddenly, I felt a pang of sadness. My eyes were sore, and he was at a loss as he wiped away my tears. What's wrong? Sister? I sniffled and calmly pushed him away. Xavier, go home tomorrow. I don't want such a good person to die for me a second time. Blake was also reborn. I was almost certain of it from the words he said. It's just that he has only gradually recalled his memories of the previous life recently. The fire in the previous life wasn't an accident but was man-made. And it was aimed at Xavier. I don't know what feud Blake had with Xavier in the previous life, and how much he has remembered. I can't take risks with Xavier. So I steeled my heart and sent Xavier away the next day. From the initial disbelief and confusion to the final compromise, Xavier didn't even look at me when he left. I knew he was still angry. So I quickly grabbed his hand and said, Xavier, wait for me. When I've solved everything, I'll come to find you. He slowly pulled my hand away. His eyes were red, but his words were very calm. Sister, do you love me? If you love me, how could you be willing to push me away? I felt a lump in my throat, and the words that came to my lips were forcefully swallowed back. It seemed that since we started dating, I had never said the words, I love you, to Xavier. In contrast, Xavier was never stingy with his love for me. He was like a brave warrior in love who charged forward without hesitation. After being hurt by Blake, I once no longer believed in love. It was Xavier who appeared by my side with great enthusiasm. Rather than saying that I seduced Xavier, it would be more accurate to say that he saved me. Love needs to be expressed. But I ignored this point. Disappointment filled Xavier's beautiful eyes. And he turned around and left. I knew what he wanted to hear from me. I really wanted to tell him that I loved him very much. But it wasn't the right time. I couldn't let Xavier get involved in the matter between me and Blake anymore. I couldn't bear to lose him again. Xavier used to send me messages as soon as he arrived at his destination. But 3 days had passed, and I still hadn't received a reply from him. I could only learn about his situation from Ava. The kid was angry. And it was a serious anger. But I still shared my daily life with him as usual. It didn't matter if he didn't reply. When Ava came to see me, I had just hung up the 5th call from Blake today. She looked at me worriedly. He's in such a difficult situation himself. And he still has the nerve to pester you? Blake's company had a serious deficit recently. Not long ago, his former secretary exposed the business scandals about him. Once these news came out, he and his company were severely affected. And it even attracted the attention of all sectors of society. I thought he would be busy dealing with those messes. But I didn't expect that he seemed to be ready to give up and even started to harass me frequently. Tell Xavier and let him come over. He can keep you company. I shook my head. Blake was already outwardly strong but inwardly weak. Moreover, he was deeply involved in economic disputes recently and wouldn't show up for the time being. At most, he only dared to make a phone call, if he wasn't afraid of being arrested. But I underestimated Blake's shamelessness. In the parking lot, I saw Blake standing in front of my car in a suit and smiling at me. In my memory, Blake had never smiled at me like this before. It was gentle and carried some lingering affection. But I only felt a sense of revulsion. Subconsciously, I wanted to walk towards the exit. But he had already strode up and grabbed my hand. Arya, you remembered it a long time ago, right? Blake said anxiously. I know you're still angry, and I didn't save you at that time. I also didn't expect you to be inside. The fire was too big. And I couldn't get in at all. At that time, Xavier had something on me and used it to blackmail me. He's not as innocent as you think, Arya. Don't be deceived by him. I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. He never looked for problems within himself. I thought it was pointless to continue the conversation. And I impatiently slapped his hand away. Please face the reality. It's already over between us. I don't believe it. You're with Xavier to take revenge on me. Right? If there wasn't Xavier, we wouldn't be like this. You would still be the happy Mrs. Blake, yep, and I wouldn't end up like this. Blake seemed to be possessed. His emotions became more and more agitated. He was pulling at his hair and pacing around restlessly. I watched this scene expressionlessly and picked up my phone to make a call. Unexpectedly, Blake pounced on me. There was a hard wall behind me. And I was hit so hard that stars danced in front of my eyes. He was about to say something more when we heard a rush of rapid footsteps approaching like the wind. Xavier grabbed Blake's collar and dragged him backward. I was stunned for a moment, and when I came to my senses, I tried to pull Xavier back. However, Xavier just held my hand tightly and firmly protected me behind him. Try bumping into her one more time? His voice was deep and heavy, as if suppressing his anger. He stared at Blake with sharp eyes. For the first time, Xavier's tall figure made me feel a sense of oppression. Blake seemed to sober up a bit when he saw Xavier, and the corners of his mouth widened. You're just a substitute. Kid. Do you know how many times Arya rejected you for me in the previous life? Even in this life. The reason she's with you is just to get back at me. As if to gain the upper hand, he deliberately tried to provoke Xavier. But instead of showing any other reaction, Xavier took out his phone. Should I call the police? Or will you leave on your own? Choose one? Blake wasn't supposed to show up in public recently. He gritted his teeth in hatred but had no way out. In the end, he could only run away reluctantly. Ignoring the dizziness in front of my eyes, I quickly asked him, "Why are you here? Didn't I tell you not to come recently?" He didn't answer me. Instead, he rubbed my head affectionately and said, "Sister. Does it hurt? I'll take you to the hospital." Xavier. Answer me. Do you know how dangerous it was just now? I emphasized my tone. If Blake completely lost his mind and didn't care about anything, I could hardly imagine what would happen to Xavier. My hands were shaking, as if I had returned to the fire scene. And I could only watch as Xavier's life faded away bit by bit. Xavier paused, put his hand down, and his tone gave no hint of whether he was angry or happy. Blake came to me. He told me everything. He said you've never loved me. A chill welled up bit by bit. I felt a moment of helplessness, having fulfilled my sigh. And I thought of my heartlessness towards Xavier in the previous life. When faced with his once passionate love, I even cruelly snuffed it out. So he knows everything now, right? Will he be very disappointed? I shook my head and explained in a panic. No. I admit I wasn't nice to you before. But, sister, have you never trusted me? Xavier interrupted me, let out a soft sigh, and pulled me into his arms. What I care about has never been these things. It's just that when you're in danger, why do you always push me away the first thing? It's been like this since I was a child. Now that your little brother has grown up, he also wants to protect you. Sister, you're afraid that I'll get hurt. But have you ever thought about me? Don't I worry about you? You're so unfair. These words were both aggrieved and bitter. And warm liquid slid down my neck. My little angel was crying. Sister, let's face it together. Okay? Leave the matter of Blake to me. Don't push me away again. I hugged him tightly and nodded vigorously. I didn't have a good time during the period when I had a quarrel with Xavier. It turns out that love is a matter for two people, no matter when. But I didn't expect that not long after I received the news that something had happened to Xavier and Blake. 15 When Ava told me that something had happened to Xavier, I was still sending messages to him. How could the person who was replying to me just a sec ago be in trouble the next second? I tried my best to stop my trembling hands and followed Ava to the place where the accident happened in the previous life. From the moment I was reborn until now, I have always tried my best to avoid going to that neighborhood. But at this moment, there was the same building, the same room, and the same fierce fire. Fire engines and police cars were parked downstairs, and the residents ran out of the stairway in a panic. Ava told me that Xavier and Blake might be inside. My vision instantly went dark. So even though I was reborn, Xavier still couldn't escape that fire in the end. At this moment, I only had one thought: go in and be with Xavier. I couldn't feel the surrounding cries of surprise or the attempts to stop me. All I knew was that Xavier would be in pain, would call out for sister in discomfort, but wouldn't let go. I still haven't told Xavier how much I love him. Until a pair of warm hands embraced me, and I fell into a broad chest. Xavier gently stroked my back and held my trembling body tightly in his arms. Sister, I understood. Do you want to die for love with Blake? Although he said that, Xavier gently kissed my forehead and whispered to me not to be afraid. Xavier stood in front of me safe and sound, and his clothes still carried the fresh scent of the laundry detergent from my home. Xavier, I love you too. Very much. My voice trembled. The emotion of having something lost and then found piled up in my heart. For the first time, I hugged him so desperately and without caring about my appearance. The fire was put out, and Blake was carried out on a stretcher. He was burned severely, and perhaps he would spend the rest of his life in a hospital bed. In order to trick Xavier inside, he used the same old trick again. Fortunately, fulfilledly, Xavier didn't fall for it. And instead, Blake couldn't escape because of the fierce fire. When we got home, I originally wanted to question Xavier severely about the fact that he went to find Blake alone without telling me. But as soon as I met his wet eyes that clung to me, I immediately gave up. Why? Why are you looking at me like that? Sister, say it again. I want to hear it. I love you. Xavier. Xavier's breath coughed for a moment, and he came over and kissed me affectionately. I never responded to Xavier's 8 confessions in the previous life, but in this life, I can respond many times. Of course. The price after each response is that I can't get out of bed the next day. He secretly put his household registration book together with mine and forcefully told me not to push him away again. I readily agreed. I didn't want to make him cry again. When you reach the right age, shall we get the marriage certificate? I coaxed him. Xavier immediately turned into those puppy eyes and leaned in. Is sister proposing to me? Propose? It's not impossible. Will you? With great pleasure. The end.